What a great welcome. What an incredible evening. And is this mic going to be okay? All right, perfect. Wow, I mean, as someone who came up from Dallas, you guys sure know how to, one, have a great time, and two, make someone from out of town feel really welcome. So thank you. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. And just in keeping with the tradition of bringing Sankar into this, I just want to thank him for meeting me on a day in May, which was not too dissimilar from the rain we have here, and catching me after a speech. And I was walking across the parking lot, and he jumped out of his vehicle and ran up to me and said, we needed to stay in contact, and that he had something in mind, and he told me about Warrior Salute. And the program here is unique. It's special. The background, the history, the origin, and the people who brought this together and who've made it happen sit right here in this room. And when he asked me to come up, I of course had to be here, and so it's my pleasure to be here. But who came here to hear a story and to be entertained? Anyone? All right, a couple people. All right, well, I'll try and entertain you some. But my mission is to be an encouragement to those who hear me and also to challenge you. If I leave and you haven't been encouraged and you haven't been challenged, then we missed somewhere. Either you had too many drinks or it might got a little crazy. But I want to start this conversation here. I want you to just think about this. I don't need anyone to jump up and tell me what the answer is, but I want you to think about what is the difference between a challenge in life and suffering. A challenge in life and suffering. I'm going to suggest that a challenge is something that we have a choice to go pursue. It's something that we recognize the obstacle in front of us, and we make the decision to go after that. For some of us, like me, and some of the gentlemen here, it was to go actually struggle through and make it through West Point. And that was a challenge, and we did it. For some of you, it may be being a faithful Buffalo Bills fan. This year, maybe you're turning Giants fans. I mean, that's a challenge you guys are taking. My point is, and it is a little bit funny, but my point is, a challenge is something that matters for us to understand. The English language is made up of words that have meaning. We live in a culture that is, filled with 140-something character tweets and Facebook post this and little sound bites here and there. And in a world in which we have so few words with which to communicate, it's important that we understand the meaning behind it. So, that's a challenge. What is suffering? I think suffering is quite a bit different. Suffering is encountering something that we did not go pursue. We did not go out and look for that. For me, and I'll talk about my experience in Afghanistan, but that day in September of 2008, I encountered something that put me on a path of suffering. And I'm going to make a very profound and probably somewhat of a counterintuitive suggestion to us here in a little bit, which is suffering can be one of the greatest things in our life. For me, as you know, you've heard my story, at least a brief bio. Some of you may have heard something on the radio or maybe read a little something online about my suffering, and you think, hey Sam, that's incredible, that is suffering. And I can't even imagine what that is. In fact, I've had this conversation tonight with some of you. Some of you, you know who you are, and you said, what you did, what you experienced, what you suffered has no comparison to what I have experienced. But I want to tell you, what I suffered, in the way that grew me, has impacted every one of you. Everyone in this room has suffered. Whether your mom died, your parents got a divorce, your business partner cheated you and ran off, maybe your kid got leukemia, your best friend in high school died in a car accident. We have all experienced suffering. And so I come to events and people want to focus on, hey, Sam's the veteran in the room, he's in the front of the stage, he's got blind. He went to Afghanistan and he wears these scars. You guys can see this, right? In the back of the room, can you see this? I wear my suffering not by choice. But the thing that's interesting when I stand up here and I get to look into your eyes, and I can see into your souls, I can see that many of you recognize that you too have suffered. You carry scars inside you. Scars that are just as impactful in your lives as the scars that I wear on my hands, my face, my arms, my back. What do we do with that? See, in our culture, once again, where words matter and things are short, we also are taught by friends, family, and our society, we pack that away. Challenges are fine. Challenges are fun. Are fine. You know, you can go endeavor to get through that school. You can endeavor to start that business. You know, you can endeavor to push through a tough relationship and see the fruit of that labor. But why do we hide our suffering? And when I get to travel and I get to talk to people, this wasn't an epiphany. I had people come to me and say, Sam, your suffering and your scars are external and you can't hide them, but I can completely relate to you. What do we do with that? Now, I said that challenges we had a choice, right? It's something we chose to go pursue. But the beautiful thing about the suffering is we have a choice there too. And see, a challenge, we can even embark on a challenge and say, I don't really like this challenge, this isn't fun, it's not comfortable, and I'm going to back out. And there's really no lasting negative impact. But with suffering, what's unique is we have this choice everyone has to make in suffering. Either it defines you negatively and haunts you for your life until you deal with it, or you choose to push into it. You choose to see the beauty in it, and you choose to get to a place where you can rejoice in it. There's a philosopher of the first century AD that had a line, and it was a huge encouragement to me. And he says, "Rejoice in your suffering, because suffering produces endurance. Endurance, character, and character, hope." It's a very, philosophical thing to think about. It seems backwards, and it requires someone to be laid up in an ICU or a hospital bed or somewhere else where life has just crushed them to really start to contemplate that. What got me there? Well, it was this life of service that we're talking about. And I ask you to, as you hear me, look at me and think of me as just a representation of the hundreds of thousands of others. And when we look at the history of our country, the millions of others who've suffered, rose to challenges, and persevered in ways very similar and dissimilar, but in the same regard, they all push through in the military. And I'm just a representation of that. But for me, in Afghanistan, 2008, I was out with dear friends. I'd been with this unit for over a year. The soldiers I was leading were like younger and older brothers to me. I was with a friend of mine from West Point. We'd gone through Ranger School together. We'd spent a year training soldiers together. We lived life together. We were community. And I get a radio call from him just after dusk. His call sign was 16 and I was 36. And he says, 36, this is 16. We're receiving mortar fire from the mountains just northeast of us. This wasn't a terribly uncommon thing. And so I just sent back a very standard report of just acknowledging what he had said. About 30 seconds later, he calls back, 3616, update. These aren't just random mortars, we're being bracketed. Which means that there was a spotter in the mountain. There wasn't just somebody lobbing mortars which fly aimlessly. His guys were now in danger, and these mortars were walking in closer and closer to that position. 1636, acknowledged. About 15 seconds later, with a little bit more urgency in his voice, 36, this is 16, we're now receiving direct fire from 2 different villages. Now, here's the choice. What do we do? I was on a particular mission that I was supposed to be securing an area, but now I've got someone who is about as close to a brother as can be, calling me and telling me that his men are in what we'd call a complex ambush. Do I maintain security there? Do I go support? I defer to him. He's the commander on the mass. 1636, do you need support? Affirmative, I need support. And so I started that faithful drive across the desert. It couldn't have lasted more than about 2 minutes as my platoon sergeant maintained security with half my platoon, and I led a few vehicles, a couple of squads of young infantrymen on our way to go support in any way that we could. I had a vehicle in front of me, and I can remember seeing, just getting to where I could see where the engagement was. And I got on my radio to give specific instructions where I wanted them to go, and everything went silent. There was 3 specific kind of sensations in that moment as I realized I hit an IED, which is a roadside bomb. You've heard it in the news, you know what it is. There was the silence with the immediate sinking down in my seat as the vehicle was blown into the air. And I couldn't see anything but the brilliant orange flames that just completely engulfed our vehicle. That's the beginning of suffering. And it came at me the same way it comes at you. No one sends us an email 2 weeks in advance that says, hey Sam, by the way, you're going to hit an IED on September 4th, 2008, just after dusk. In the same way that no one called you and said, hey, by the way, your mom's going to be diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It doesn't happen that way. What do you do? There was nothing I could physically do in that moment to save my life. Some of you have been there. There's no reason you should have survived that moment, that evening, that event, that diagnosis. There's nothing you can physically do to save your life. And I threw my arms in the air. That was my coming to Jesus moment. I cried out to God and I said, Jesus, save me. You have to understand what kind of humility that took for a young man who'd gone through West Point, had been through Ranger School. You're told and you believe with every fiber in your being that you were essentially indestructible and you were the best leader that can possibly be, and you're just, you're gonna always conquer and always win. But I knew that quick that wasn't always true. And so I lay in the ground, and I was trying to smother the flames in the same way that we try and struggle through this suffering that we encounter. And I couldn't put out the flames. You can see my face burned awful. My arms burned all the way to my armpits. And some asked, was it painful? Well, yeah, it was painful. But you know what the worst part of that was? It was the isolation. You see, one moment I was in my vehicle and I knew I had 4 other guys with me, and I had a vehicle in front of me and I could see it, and I knew there was guys behind me. And in that split second, all of a sudden, I had no idea if anyone else in my vehicle was alive. I could no longer see the battlefield to know where the vehicles in front of me and behind me were, whether or not my buddy and his platoon were still okay, or if they had all been wiped out by now. And I was in complete isolation, and the only thing that I could experience was hearing my own voice crying out to God and for my mother. And no visibility of anything but the flames burning my face. It's a dramatic moment, it really is. But once again, you know what that looks like. In your own way, you know what that looks like. We've all been there at that point where the isolation can feel insurmountable. And so a guy who was so capable of so many things and doing the right thing is now laying face down in the dirt with nothing left to give. And I processed 3 thoughts. I remember thinking very specifically, how long will it take for me to burn to death? And then right after that I thought, what is the transition from this life to the next going to be like? And then I thought, it's over. And I laid there limp. And I gave up the will to live. What gets someone from that point of being completely crushed, without hope, and complete isolation, to a place of thriving back in the community and serving? For me, it was a voice. I heard, interrupting my screams, this voice that said, "Sir, I've got you." It was the voice of my gunner, Kevin Jensen. And not only had he survived the blast and extinguished his own burning flesh and uniform, but he had the presence of mind to find me laying in the dirt and to come over and give me the words I needed. "Sir, I've got you." It's incredible, it's a miracle what happens in that moment. You go from complete despair, allowing that suffering to completely destroy you, to now having all the confidence in the world. And not only am I going to survive this moment, but I knew in that moment on the battlefield when I heard his voice that I was going to walk off that battlefield and I had a purpose and a future that was going to extend on for years. I knew it with every fiber in my being that there was purpose left for my life because there was no reason I should have been alive. And that's what the Warrior Salute does. That's what you do by being a part of this. Whether you're on staff, you've been on the board, you're a 10-year donor, or you're a 2-year donor, or you're just here because you heard something on the radio today and you said, hey, I'm going to go up here and hear something. We have all participated in being that voice that tells men and women in uniform, I've got you. When Sandcar told me what the mission was and how they've impacted veterans, I knew that this is what was occurring. Today I have the opportunity to go meet with some veterans who are following in Todd's footsteps. These guys have volunteered to go meet challenges and they've overcome. But these guys have also suffered, and they're right in the midst of that struggle. But we all are. We all have been there. And it's the responsibility of our community to continue to bridge that gap. To be that voice, to be that hope. You see, what happens after you've survived that moment is you can take the time to think about that philosophical proverb I gave you. Because when you understand that there's still purpose, and you can still be on mission for your community, for life, for this country, and you can begin to rejoice in that suffering. And that's what I found to be true. And once you begin to rejoice in that suffering, you make that choice to allow that to be one of the greatest moments of your life, you build endurance. And so when suffering comes again, I've got this. And that endurance will instill a new character. And so whenever you come up against other opportunities to take a challenge or you suffer, not by your own choice, you will have character. Your life will be marked with integrity. You will make the right choice. And that gives us hope. We can all have hope. And that's what the Warrior Salute ultimately does, is it gives hope to these veterans. And I'm just so thrilled and proud to be here, to be around a group of Americans and a community that takes that seriously. It's impressive to see what's occurred, and just so you know, and it wasn't specified today, but the reach goes beyond Rochester. This program has people coming from out of state. There's been veterans come from California, Florida, Texas, Colorado, Kentucky. Those are just the ones I've heard of, just in today. And so what this community has done is it's producing ambassadors of hope. And so, no one else has said it tonight, and I know that this group has already given so much, but I just want to bring it to your attention because I feel like it's a duty. Inside here, take these home. And in the middle, you're sitting on it or it's under your feet. In the middle is a yellow form you can tear out. Continue to read about what's happening here and take that form out. And whether you leave it here tonight and you make an additional donation because you have that additional level of conviction, or you take it home and you think about it and talk it over with your organization or your spouse, or you pray about it with your God, this community can do more. And I'm so excited to watch it from Texas and to come back in the future and get updates on what's happening here. And I'm excited to run into the alumni of this program, whether they're in Tampa like Todd, or go back home to Kentucky like others, and to see what kind of spark of hope that is being deposited because of the mission that you all participated in. And so Sandcar, thanks again for having me here. Remember to dig in through your suffering, rejoice in it, You'll find endurance and character, and we're all about that. Thank you.